Good morning on this Wednesday, February 24th. It is Tech Conference 2021 Day. Today, the NNPA and Zinger News will present Tech Conference 2021. But before we get into that, the headlines. Rodney Reese spent the night in jail after he was arrested for being in the street while walking home from work in icy conditions during last week's winter weather in Texas, in Plano, Texas. Plano's police chief said that charges against Rodney Reese have been dropped because it does not fit what officers were called to investigate. We brought you that story 2 days ago, and Rodney Reese has hired an attorney and is looking into whether or not what his options are when it comes to the Plano Police Department and the actions of those officers. Also this morning, golf great Tiger Woods is recovering from a terrible one-car accident near Los Angeles yesterday. The 45-year-old superstar had to be extracted by the jaws of life after his car apparently hit a median and rolled over for hundreds of yards. His agent said he underwent surgery on both his legs, and after lengthy emergency surgery following the rollover crash, it required an insertion of a rod, screws, and pins to stabilize his legs. He suffered 2 broken legs and a shattered ankle. Tiger was awake and responsive and recovering after the surgery at the Level 1 Trauma Center, Harbor UCLA Medical Center. Having seen the damage at the crash site, Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva called Tiger surviving the crash nothing short of a miracle. Tiger was wearing a seatbelt. There was no hint of any type of substance involved. It was just an unfortunate rollover accident. Tiger was on his way to meet several football players that he had a golf outing with. He had just had a golf outing with retired NBA superstar Dwayne Wade. The black press wishes Tiger a speedy recovery. What a horrible accident by Tiger Woods. We now bring on our president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavis.
Good morning, Stacy, and good morning on behalf of the Black Press of America, the National Newspaper Publishers Association. We're very grateful for the support of our chair, Karen Carter Richards, distinguished publisher of the Houston Forward Times, our Holy Zeta Committee, the National Board of Directors of the NNPA. You know, we all have Tiger Woods in our prayers. You remember yesterday, right after the tragic automobile accident, I called you and I said, listen, we have to pause for a moment. Tiger is from us, about us, and I think that God has blessed him not only to have a great career on the golf course, but he's also a humanitarian. And you can see, as great as Tiger Woods, he's also a friend to many other, not only athletes, but to brothers and sisters in the community. So to the whole Woods family and to Tiger himself, please know that the Black Press will keep the Woods family in our prayers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Dr. Chavis. When I got the call from you, you actually called me almost a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, and gave me the news about Kobe Bryant. And it just sounded almost the same tone, Dr. Chavis. It kind of sent chills through me. We immediately got on that story and got some information from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department about Tiger Woods. And it was refreshing to know, or good to know anyway, that officers did report that he was responsive, that he was lucid, and that his life was not in danger.
Right. And again, just the difference between the Black press and the mainstream press. At the first press conference that the Los Angeles County Sheriff had, many of the questions from the mainstream press want to know, well, was he driving drunk? Was there any impairment? And every time the sheriff said no, there are no evidences of impairment. They didn't want to accept the sheriff's rationale. People tend, even in a tragedy, unfortunately, some people in the media tend to look for the negative. As you recall, after Kobe Bryant had his tragic death, people were trying to bring up the negative. So that's why we have to have the Black press. We not only bring the truth, but we bring it in a way that's balanced. We bring it in a way that's respectful of a celebrity or respectful of any human being. those, the nameless, the voiceless, as well as the famous.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Chavis, we in the Black press, yeah, we want the clicks, we want the subscribers, but we're not doing clickbait, and we're not throwing things out there just to grab attention. Like you said, Dr. Chavis, and based on the charge you've given and our chair, Karen Carter Richards, we will report the facts and only the facts. We're not going to sensationalize.
Exactly.
And so, Dr. Chavis, a big day today. 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time, a one-day summit that begins. It's designed to help other small minority business owners and reveal the secret to success during and after the pandemic. The one-day summit is Tech Conference 2021. You can register. You see on the scroll there where you can register. It's free, and it's presented by Zinger News, the world's first digitally native news wire, and owned and operated by journalists and the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Of course, we are the trade association representing the 230 African-American newspapers and media companies in the United States. It's a big conference. Dr. Chavis, I know you're excited.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the conference will begin this morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. Karen Carter Richards, our distinguished chair of the NNPA, will give greetings. I will give greetings, and we will hear from Andre Johnson, who's the distinguished vice president of Zinger News Service, a great journalist in his own rights. And then we'll get into the tech conference. We'll have a keynote address today by the Honorable Yvette Clarke, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus representing the district in Brooklyn, but she's also on the Committee on Technology. So we're looking forward to hearing from Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. And of course, then Dana White also will be speaking on behalf of Hyundai. Hyundai is the lead sponsor of Tech Conference 2021. So we ask everybody to join us today. You need that great information that's going to be disseminated on the latest innovations in technology. And one of the things I can tell you, Stacy, is that during today's tech conference, you're going to hear from African-American leaders in technology. What we discovered in all these major tech companies, you find is gifted, talented African-Americans, female and male, who know the landscape, who know the contours of the tech industry, but also opportunities. There's one panel that I'm going to be on in particular today that I want particularly our young millennials and Generation Z to look at, and that's the opportunities. There's so many great high-paying job opportunities in the tech industry, and unfortunately, a lot of our people don't even know about it. So this isn't going to be an informative conference. It's going to also help our publishers to see what technology is available to them to improve their businesses, to make them more profitable, to utilize technology, even in the context of the pandemic. There are ways to be engaged, there are ways to be a successful entrepreneur, and there are ways to expand one's business to the extent to which we get a better grasp of the technology that's available.
Yeah, we were hoping to have Andre Johnson on this morning. I think Andre may have had a scheduling conflict at the last minute, but we certainly are looking forward to this great conference. As you said, Dr. Chavis, is so much with tech, so much potential there, particularly for African Americans. We have not tapped into it as best as we can. So, Dr. Chavis, what would you say kind of prohibits, or not prohibits, but inhibits or don't allow Black Americans to tap into the tech field as much as they possibly can?
Well, what I think is information. I mean, all not only the tech industry, but all of corporate America. While after George Floyd, as you know, last year, tragic murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, a number of corporations stopped passing policies about diversity and inclusion. There's greater discussion now about social justice. There's a greater discussion now, particularly with the Biden-Harris administration, about equity. So all these things come together. So there are a lot of the corporate leaders, particularly in the technology sphere, now reaching out to African Americans, to Latinos, to other people of color. And I think one of the things that, to use your term, Stacy, that may inhibit our entrance into the tech world fully is just the lack of information. And that's where the Black press comes. The lack of knowing about these opportunities and the lack of knowing the accessibility. How do you access a career in technology? Well, I don't want to tell you the whole story, but I do know there's a sister, an African-American woman who was working at McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's. It's a great job. But she used that job and then went for 6 months and took some tech training. Now she's one of the lead technical, not just advisors, technical directors for a major federal agency in Washington, D.C., making over 3 figures. So, just with 6 months of training. And it does not require a college degree. So I think there's so much information out there that we're going to impart and deliver and disseminate today at Tech Conference 2021. You see how to register? Please come and join us. The registration is free.
Yeah, absolutely. And let it be known, good morning to Annette Phillips, Lynn Spivey, James Wright, and our Executive Administrator, Claudette Perry, and all those who are watching. With thousands of frontline workers and high-risk populations receiving the first round of COVID-19 vaccinations around the globe, there is still a subset that still has doubts and hesitancy surrounding it, African Americans. Joining us now is Dr. Anton Webb to discuss this COVID-19 vaccine as it pertains to African Americans. Good morning, Dr. Webb.
Good morning, Stacy. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Webb. Always good to see you, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Dr. Webb, a recent Pew research report highlighted that the fact that African Americans are less inclined to receive the vaccine than other racial and ethnic groups. However, there's also more and more reports that African Americans are not being offered the vaccine, or not being in line or at the front of the lines. Dr. Webb, how do we reconcile this?
Yeah, that's certainly a problem. There's several surveys and studies that have come out that saying that African Americans are less likely, they're hesitant and reluctant to receive the vaccine, which is a huge problem, because if individuals are not vaccinated, that's the only way that we're only going to be able to move forward and kind of head towards what they call herd immunity. But, there are some vulnerability index scores that are out there that highlight the cities that have the highest risk of contracting as well as dying from COVID-19. And unfortunately, the dissemination of the vaccines are not targeting or not getting to these areas, which is a huge problem.
Yeah, and again, apologize for the mispronunciation of your name. It's Antonio Webb. Yeah. Antonio from San Antonio.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at
all. Dr. Chavis, I know you've had a lot of concerns with that, but you've also had your first shot. Can you, I'm going to throw it to you, and you can have a discussion with Dr. Webb here too.
Well, thank you. Again, I thank Dr. Webb. And another thing that's not really highlighted by the mainstream media is there's so many African-American physicians like Dr. Webb and others who are engaged in making sure that the African-American community is not left out. I definitely went and had my first shot. I'm going to take the second shot in about a week. And I had no side effects whatsoever. I had the Moderna shot. So I think that part of the problem is there's a lot of misinformation out there, not only in mainstream media, but it's a lot of misinformation on social media. And that's why the Black press is important. So Dr. Webb, last year we established a NNPA coronavirus task force, and we wanted to make sure that some of the leading physicians, and they did get involved, to get this word out. And we've been back and forth with the CDC as their guidelines have evolved over this past 12 months. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Dr. Webb, what's your prognosis from your practice? What have you seen? Is the trend going in the right direction when it comes to African Americans, or are we still relatively at a standstill proportionally in terms of getting the vaccine?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's still a huge need and a huge disparity. African Americans are 2 to 3 times higher to contract COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 and also die from it. So that there's a huge need for it. I received both of my vaccines as well and didn't have any side effects besides a kind of a sore arm. But a lot of this, the reluctance to receive the vaccine kind of goes way back to the 1800s, when they were sterilizing women of color without their consents. There is some beliefs that African Americans don't have the same pain level as other kind of people with the various skin colors, and kind of that mistrust in the medical system going fast forward to the 1930s to the Tuskegee trial. So I can see why a lot of people are very hesitant. But, for me, I just wanted to be a voice and let people know that, this is something that you should certainly consider. People are dying. I just saw over 500,000 people have died from COVID-19, and it will continue to impact our community if we do not address this.
Exactly. To our listening audience, if you go to blackpressusa.com and under the search bar, just put coronavirus, you see hundreds of articles that we've posted and published. But Dr. Webb, do you have a website that you want to give our listening audience where they can go find out information about the vaccine or about COVID-19, overall information to help African Americans be better informed?
Yeah, all of my social media sites are Antonio Webb, MD. I put out information on YouTube. I put out a few videos about the COVID vaccine, and I actually I filmed myself getting the vaccine, about what happened after and kind of before that process. So, and then that's on YouTube. You just go to YouTube, type in Antonio Webb, MD. But most of the CDC, the World Health Organization, your local and state kind of government websites, those are pretty reliable sources. But for me and my patients, I don't tell my patients to take the vaccine. I just give them information so that they can make the best decision for themselves and their family.
Yes, thank you. I've just got a text from Southern Africa. People around the world, Stacy, are watching the program this morning. It was afternoon already in Africa. Dr. Webb, one of our brothers and sisters in Africa wanted to know about the World Health Organization. During the Trump years, there was a disengagement from the WHO. Can you, as a medical physician, as one of the leaders in the medical community, can you just share with our audience how important it is for the United States to be re-engaged with the WHO? Because the pandemic is a global pandemic. It's just not an American pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. A global pandemic, and I was actually in Liberia right before the Ebola outbreak. I was there doing surgery, and I spent a month there right before the Ebola. So this kind of reminds me of kind of during that time. And it's certainly a global pandemic. There needs to be a kind of, from a government, federal kind of regulations and protocols that are in place to make sure that our community is getting vaccinated and they're getting educated, making sure they're making informed decisions. And I just don't see this happening. Unfortunately, people will continue to die. And this is something that's very serious, that you have to take serious. African Americans have higher rates of comorbidities, including high blood pressure, kidney disease, heart disease. Well, these things place you at risk, and you have to absolutely take care of yourself and make sure that you consider taking this vaccine.
Thank you very much. We're going to be reaching out to the WHO. We may reach back to you, Dr. Webb, because we would like to get the head of the WHO to be on Let It Be Known, so that people in our communities can hear from some of the leading global health authorities about the importance of following the guidelines of the CDC, following the guidelines of the World Health Organization and others. I think, again, information is so important that we get the factual information, timely information. Then once you get the information, to make sure that we act on the information. Just don't receive what you should do, but we have to act, we have to take action. And that's why I'm encouraging everyone to protect themselves, wear those masks, social distancing, wash your hands. And when you have availability to take that vaccine, don't miss your spot, don't miss your place, so you can protect yourself and your family.
Yeah. And one last thing, a lot of people are very hesitant because they talk about the flu vaccine and they say, hey, I took the vaccine, but I still got the flu. I don't want to take the COVID vaccine. Well, the vaccines do not prevent you from contracting the virus. You can certainly still contract the virus. It's about how your body is equipped, how your body responds to it. So you'll have a lesser infection. You'll be able to rid that infection a lot quicker and a lot safer. So I just don't want people to just throw off the vaccine because of their experience with the flu vaccine. These vaccines are very effective. Over 30,000 people, and even more now, are in these trials, and these trials are very high level 1, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trials. So I looked at every single trial before I took the vaccine, talked to over 25 of my friends who are physicians and Black. Every single one of them advocated. So, and they're experts in this field, and I trust them, and I hope everyone does also.
Yeah, and I want you to respond to this, Dr. Webb, if you can. Our executive administrator, Claudette Perry, writes in that my sister, who's 70 and lives in Montgomery County, Maryland, has been trying to get the vaccine and cannot seem to get an appointment when her younger white counterparts are not having that problem. She believes she's being discriminated against because she's checking the black box.
Yeah, I haven't not heard that much in terms of people saying that they've checked a box and then they're not able to get appointments. But I would just be very persistent. I go to the vaccine place where they give the vaccines and say, hey, I checked off did the paperwork online and I'm having trouble getting in. And if that they give you a hard time on that, you need to go up the chain of command. But sometimes you just have to advocate for yourself and just keep pushing until you get to that point. And hopefully the vaccine will kind of be more widespread to a lot more people. I know they're going kind of in tiers now, but right now I do hear that some people are having a little bit of trouble receiving the vaccine. But, unfortunately, I don't have the correct answer in terms of how to handle the situation, but I would just be very persistent.
Yeah. And Dr. Webb, first of all, we haven't properly introduced you. We didn't tell people where you work. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an orthopedic spine surgeon. So I fix patients who have orthopedic issues, knee arthritis, hip arthritis, as well as spine problems. So I do spine surgery. I'm located in San Antonio, Texas, originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, where I grew up a pretty challenging and rough background, including several family members who went to prison, including my little brother for armed robbery, my little sister, and my mom was actually shot, and she's paralyzed from her waist down due to her drug addiction. So I detail all of that in my book, Overcoming the Odds, and just released a documentary called Overcoming the Odds about my time growing up in Louisiana and actually making it through all of that, including 3 rejections to medical schools for 3 years, and then becoming a spine surgeon. So I think it's important for young kids to see people like in my position, to let them know that it is certainly possible. There's a huge disparity in medicine in terms of African Americans. Less than 1.9% of orthopedic surgeons are African American, which is a huge problem because patients need to be treated by providers that look like them. So, that's kind of my passion, is to increase Black men as well as diversity in medicine.
Now,
Dr. Webb, give out again. A lot of our readers and a lot of our listeners want to listen more about your story. You have a not only resilient story, but I think it's a very inspirational story. Not only how you've overcome the odds, but now that you're using your life to help so many people. How can people reach you and get more in depth of your fascinating story? It's a great way to celebrate Black History Month, and brothers and sisters like you, Dr. Webb, continue to make Black history.
Yeah, so this month I'm actually doing a 21-city virtual film tour, and I'm really focusing on HBCUs and schools that have disadvantaged students. So there's organizations called the Student National Medical Association. It's for minority students in medicine. Those are the schools that I'm targeting. But people can find out about me, AntonioWebbMD.com or OvercomingTheOddsMovie.com. And then all of my social media sites are Antonio Webb MD. That's Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. That's where people can find me.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about the virtual tour with HBCUs. So when does that kick off? Has it kicked off already? And give us maybe a handful of the schools that you'll be visiting.
Yeah, so I'm on talk number 19. I've done 18 talks so far this month. I have a few more left this week. I started February 1st. I wanted it to be for Black History Month and kind of the celebrate the release of my documentary. And some of the schools, Howard University, Meharry, spoken to Morehouse, and a lot of other colleges, Baylor, that have these student national medical associations, these minority groups that are medical students, pre-med students, college students, high school students that may have some interest in going in medicine. There's a huge disparity in medicine. Here in San Antonio, there are over 100 spine surgeons. There are 3 of us that are African American, which is a huge problem because patients will continue to die if we do not address this. There's multiple studies that show that patients do better when they're treated by providers that look like them, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, Dr. Antonio Webb, we really appreciate you stopping by this morning. Dr. Chavis, final thoughts?
Well, again, I think that, again, our brothers and sisters in the medical community, like Dr. Webb, we don't do enough, Stacy, to support them and to lift them up. And that's, again, why we need the Black press. So, Dr. Webb, we're going to be calling on you to do regular writings and columns for the Black Press of America. You can join Dr. Hilton, Dr. Ebony Hilton, and many others that work with us, because our stories are so not only refreshing, but inspiring and motivational. But also, I think the career door is open. We need more brothers and sisters in the medical field. And as you now, a rare spine surgeon, a very successful medical career, we want to open those doors wider for the next generation of doctors and physicians and surgeons to follow in your successful steps.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a study that came out and that showed that there were more Black men in medical school in 1978 than there were in 2014. So that's kind of my passion and goal, is to try to address that. It's a huge problem, and I will continue working hard as I can to make sure that happens. Our patients, our population, our community needs to be treated by providers that can relate to them and look like them. So I grew up a really challenging background. I can relate to my patients, and patients certainly, they have better outcomes when they're treated by providers that look like them.
Very good. I got another from Jamaica, from the Caribbean. They want to know if you can do something in the Caribbean with your virtual tour. There's a great need for voices like yours also in the Caribbean, Dr. Webb.
Yeah, happy to do that. Unfortunately, this month I'm all booked up, and every single night I have a talk. But yeah, happy to reach out to me, AntonioWebbMD.com. We can certainly kind of make that happen in the future.
Great. Dr. Antonio Webb, we really appreciate it. Our Black History Month remembrance, Charles Jackson French. On September 5th, 1942, United States Navy messman Charles Jackson French swam through the night for 6 to 8 hours, pulling a raft of 15 wounded sailors with a rope around his stomach through shark-infested waters. The U.S. Navy ship, the USS Gregory, was hit by Japanese naval fire in the South Pacific. Many were wounded and killed, but French he was wounded too, but he successfully brought these men to safety on the shores of the Solomon Islands. Charles Jackson French was the first Black swimmer to earn the Navy Medal for his heroism in 1943. We remember Charles Jackson French and commemorate his heroism and incredible swimming to celebrate Black History Month. Charles Jackson French. Let it be known, if we are going to be part of the solution, we have to engage the problem. Our tech conference starts at 11 o'clock. Sign up, register, it's free. We will see you there at 11 o'clock for our tech conference, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining us.